right, let's go ahead and get started.
Right.
Welcome to Adoctorsjourney, navigating life and medicine with coaching and healthcare innovation. I'm your host, Miguel Villagra, board-certified internal medicine physician, passionate about artificial intelligence and digital health consultant. And today, I am very excited to have an amazing guest who has a very interesting educational platform and also recognize a YouTube channel about AI and automation. Helena Liu is an automation and AI strategist, and I'm very excited to have her today and have this conversation about AI automation for small businesses, focus on small healthcare practices. Welcome, Helena. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
It's so amazing to have you on board. I have found your videos very educational and useful. And
Yeah.
I think that right now we're in this tipping point where we're seeing the explosion of artificial intelligence. And one of the things that a lot of my audience are as physicians that own small practices, that you will describe as small business entrepreneurs. And I have seen how rapidly some of these practices are adopting artificial intelligence into their workflow. So I want to get a little bit deep into the topic of AI automation and how small businesses can even start or continue using it. But before we go there, I want to see if you can tell me a little bit about you. My brand is Adoctorsjourney. We always share the journey of physician and non-physician entrepreneurs and people that is doing innovation and driving innovation and change. And I think you're a good example of it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. So I started pretty much been an entrepreneur my entire life. And there's a really good book that I read when I was getting started. It's called E-Myth. And it was just saying how when people get started in their entrepreneur journey, like they try to do everything, right? If you were opening a bakery, you're the one washing the dishes, taking the orders, baking the cake, sweeping the floors every day. Essentially, you're not running a business. You just found the worst job in the world for yourself, because you could have made more money even working at McDonald's. So I bring that up because it took me about a year to realize that. But it's expensive also to run a business, to hire people, to get them trained, to communicate what you need. That's an entirely new skill set. So what really drew me to AI for entrepreneurs like doctors is the fact that now you can reduce a lot of those costs with AI. One prominent example being, so when I was 22, when I started my first business, and with that, like I had a full-time job as well. And so I would be like running out into the hallways, taking calls from potential leads, because I was putting my personal phone number on and so now if I had AI back then, I could have just made an AI voice assistant for like less than $100, and the AI can talk to the person, answer calls, and only if they're super serious, then I'll be the one like to answer the calls for them. So that's what really draws me to artificial intelligence. It's the amount of help it can give to business owners, allow them to scale faster without the cost that was involved 10 years ago.
Yeah, totally. As I was doing my research for our conversation, I came across this recent research that nearly 83% of small business owners plan to use AI in the next year. Nearly 70% of them are already using some tools for their own businesses. But what the opportunity is, though, is that those that are already using it, and nearly 87% has documented improvement on their productivity. So that kind of proved the concept, right? This is not just about theory, right? That this might be helpful or can help you offload and streamline some of your processes. But really, the data is actually showing that that is the case. And what I like about this is that this is, to me, an opportunity. I'm going to use more like a political word, like a democratization of this technology, that most people and business owners can actually start using it, not necessarily the larger corporation or larger businesses or larger healthcare system and so on. So now, do you see through your platform and your experience that is the case, that you see those results happening in such a short period of time?
Yes, absolutely. Like when AI is implemented, generally you start to see the cost or reductions within a matter of weeks. It's quite instantaneous. Like when you turn it on, for example, like we use it all the time in social media. That's like one, like marketing is a place where AI is used very prominently. And yeah, so to answer your question, yes, I do see a
Yeah.
lot of like business results in my business and others.
Right. Now, on the flip side, though, what has been the frictions or I would say the roadblocks that you have encountered when you work with clients that are trying to implement any artificial intelligence workflow into their businesses?
What are the challenges?
Yeah, the roadblock, frictions, or challenges to implement it.
Yeah, I would say mainly it comes down to two main challenges. Like one is people, like a lot of people, they may be on board with AI, but then the rest of their team is afraid of AI, afraid of being like replaced by it, for example. Like for example, for one client, we built an AI chatbot that can reduce their support significantly. And then the COO got not fired, but she left and a new lady came on and she scrapped the entire project. And I think there was some fear among the customer service team that they may be let go because the AI can look up their accounts, AI can look up like what they have done, stuff like that. So the first challenge is on the people side, getting people on board with the AI initiatives, and that happens with every technological change. And the second major challenge is integrating it into their existing tool stack, because the only way we can implement the AI is through APIs. And certain applications that they use only have certain APIs, which can be a challenge. And actually, I would add a third one. The third is even the business owners, like I know a lot of them don't come from a bad place, but they just don't understand AI to a certain degree, and they come in with some unrealistic expectations of what this tool is, almost imagining it like as a crystal ball. So as soon as they implement it, like it's going to increase my sales. It's not AI that will increase your sales. It's how you use AI in a unique way that will like increase your sales or get you that business result, right? Like they skip a layer in between because they think that it's some sort of like magic box, right? But it's really just another tool that can help them. So I think those are the challenges.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Helena. And that there's a lot of things to impact for what you just said, right? So the first I will say to that is I agree. I seen it like an enhancement tool, right? But it won't replace it won't create a minimal viable product by itself, right? You need to have a good business, right? That is planning on scaling, and you use this technology to help you with that. And I have seen that because part of my journey, I coach physician entrepreneurs they might have some great ideas, but they're just early stages on their business, and they feel like AI will build everything for them, and that's not the case. Now, on the flip side, I can tell you that I usually, because I do digital health consulting in healthcare, but I also have my coaching business on the side. So I always try to break down AI applications in the healthcare and in the non-healthcare settings, because as healthcare, particularly in the US, has a lot of regulation, right? From PHI, HIPAA compliance, etc. And sometimes those regulations has led to a lot of, I'm not going to call roadblocks, but specific steps to be compliant with these tools when they're implemented at either a small clinic or even a large healthcare system. And there are so many layers that you need to go through the approval process, etc. And I'm going to give you a specific example that I might want to hear your thoughts on. One of the technologies that I've been pushing a lot in healthcare, even though I want to pivot into non-healthcare applications later, but in the healthcare setting has been the use of AI medical scribes, right? This technology can help you. It's an ambient technology that can help you record the conversation and create automatic notes into the patient's chart. And I'm going to tell you that one of the main pivot points related to physicians burnout is the fact that a lot of documentation time, we spend hours sitting down, either typing or even dictating on a microphone and things like that, and have this option of recording the patient encounter or even pre-record your patient encounter when you're revising the chart and so on. That definitely, at least personally, in my use cases that I've been collected, has cut me even 2.5 hours of work on my usual workflow on a given day. And that allowed me to spend more time with my patient, have more conversations and things like that. But definitely, the more I see this technology, there is always, as you were mentioning, this is new. People don't know about it. They might not trust it. And physicians are not we're not really that good with changes. And we like the status quo to some degree, or sometimes we have some resistance to the mindset of change. However, I've been trying to reframe the conversation instead of, this is a new technology you want to use. What are the advantages that you might have by even giving a try to use this type of technology? But having said that, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, on navigating the healthcare ecosystem and how AI can play a role there, and how do you see fit into our workflows?
I think what you need to do is take a bigger step back. Like whenever I think you want to look at how to implement AI into any industry, first look at what the processes involve. And so map that out, like especially first I do this, then I do this, and I do this, and I do this, right? Like for example, social media. First I looked at the news, then from this news, I read the top 10 news, then I write my post, then I add image, then I post, something like this, right? So whatever that process is for the doctors. Once you systemize that out in steps, like in a flowchart, then you can start systemizing that and look at what step can AI step in and what can AI do. So AI can now go out and do the research on the top 10, 20, whatever you set, news articles. AI can write the post, AI can create the image, AI can post on your social media account. So that whole process I just described can be all AI, done by AI. But there's also other types of automations involved as well. So you can have a human in the loop. So you can add a human step at the end where the human approves that post and then it gets posted, right? When you're looking at using AI in any process, first take a look at how is the human doing that process? What are the steps involved? What can the AI do? And AI can do 5 functions mainly, right? Text, images, audio, video, and coding. So which of those task is involved in that specific task? And then look at what softwares are involved. And then do they have APIs that can link them together so that you can also automate it? And then I know so artificial intelligence in the way that we use it is generally generative AI, where it's like text in, text out, or text in, image out, text in, video out. Automation is different. Automation is having that tool be triggered without human intervention, right? And when you can combine the two together, it's when you can achieve some really great business results depending on how you use this technology.
I love it. I love the framework to definitely do the mapping of the workflow and see what steps are fit for the technology, what fit, particularly in healthcare, what fits are, I would say, mandatory to have a human oversight, specifically physicians or providers, etc. But the last part of your comments give me the perfect piggyback to get into the, I will describe as non-healthcare applications. And by that, you still have a small business that is, but instead of just, I'm not talking about directly patient care, but rather than improve patient relationship. There's a lot of opportunity offload on some of the CRM, customer relationship management with patients. And you alluded to social media. It is a good way that I want to see if you can get more granular about applications for small businesses that are trying to advertise their clinics and their businesses in social media. How do you see the process, and how do you see it fit into AI, into the workflow of these small businesses that are trying to get social media spread of their business?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again? Hello?
Yeah, I was just talking about social media advertising for small businesses. How do you see that AI and automation fit into this?
fit into
How it can help them to advertise and maybe even offload and even cost saving them because they're not hiring people for that PR and stuff like that.
Yeah, one of the main ways that doctor offices are using AI is with voice assistants. One common complaint I hear from people in the medical field is their secretaries are not reliable. They have a call, but they don't return those calls from patients. One doctor that I know actually said that he pays a small percentage, like 1-2% of his total earnings to his secretary so that he gives her some extra incentives to call a customer, call them back and schedule them onto calendars. But yeah, I think one common like pain point is not finding the good secretaries. So that's something that you can do with AI. Now, mind you, the technology where we are at today, it's not perfect. You can, no matter what you do, you can tell that it's a bot and not a human. Having right expectations before you go and implement voice bots is important. Not going in with thinking, it comes to the provider that you go with as well, right? Like some providers sell it as, oh, this is a replacement for my human. And when they sell it like that, like I find that then the business owners is expecting the bot to be as good as a human. They're comparing it to the human, and the bot will ultimately lag behind in the long run, right? Maybe on a specific call, the bot is better, but overall, it's not as great as a human. There's just things that it doesn't know and can't do. Yeah, but however, that being said, it's a lot cheaper. Generally, you're paying about 15 to 20 cents per minute. And if you're setting it up yourself, you have no setup fees. If you're hiring someone else to set it up for you, it's going to be between $1,000 to $5,000, depending on the scope. Some I've seen ones as high as $30,000 for that setup fee. And then you might have a few $100s in maintenance fee plus your 15 to 20 cent per minute usage fee. So that's like the general cost structure of how these go. And the price varies depending on how the bot is built. So these bots can be built one of two ways. One is with a single prompt. So literally all the instructions for that bot is summarized in 1,000 to 2,000 words. The other way that these bots can be built is with a flow-based builder. So let's say it was an academic institution. It can say, hello, this is Riley from ABC University. How can I help you? And then the first is, I'm a student. I want to see your courses. I'm an existing student. And I'm another education provider looking to license your courses. Very different intents. And then you can now have different flows. And depending on what that person says, that AI can direct them to that appropriate path. And it does create a lot better of an experience in IVR. And its goal is to reduce that call volume and be able to answer more of the questions than like a traditional IVR system. So that's what I like to tell people. Like, for example, there's like a Airbnb property manager that came to us, right? And with that kind of like robust IVR system, and even though it make it very clear it's an AI caller, they were still able to reduce their request by up to 80%. So so what I realize is like it comes down to setting that proper expectation with the business owner, and not saying that it's going to be as great as a human, but looking at what are the common tasks and common questions that you have, like using the 80-20 rule and getting the bot to do that 20% that gives them 80% of the relief in terms of their sales or customer service process.
Yeah, I think that was a remarkable outcome in that case study. So that made me wonder though, Helena, I know it probably depends on the practice of where you're going to implement an AI voice agent, but how will be the estimated upfront cost to start using it? And also, like in this case study you were describing, how that compare to hiring somebody, right? Because that would be the other route, no? To have, you already alluded to, they were not that happy sometimes with even the secretary or assistant, but what is the cost savings that you have seen by using AI instead of somebody doing the job?
It really depends on the specific situation. So that's like saying, when I get a website, I'll get an X increase in sales, right? I move my business from offline to online, so therefore I can get an X percentage in sales. Some people obviously get a big boost, whereas others get nothing. So the range is like 0 to 1,000%, right? So it's not about, like, you had to think of AI as a tool, and how you use it is what determines how successful you are at it. It's not the tool itself that will get you the results. It's, if you were a construction worker or a doctor, it's not the, what do you call it? The thing that you wear, the
A stethoscope?
stethoscope that make you a good doctor or a bad doctor, but how you use that tool that will make you a good doctor or a bad doctor.
Thanks. Perfect. I love it. So now I want to piggyback on the example you were alluding for the social media, because again, we work with sometimes small entrepreneurs, a small business that are just getting started and spreading the word out of their businesses. Some of them are coaches that offer coaching services to other doctors. I want to use this as a case study to see if we can get more granular on how would you build an automation for social media posts for any small, like, to give an example, a coaching business. So you have this process. Where do you see the AI feed? Looking at the topics to be posted, looking at the creation of the post or automating the post itself. So how can you guide me through an idea how this could be visually being built?
Sorry, what is built? Social
Social
media?
media? Social media posts? Automate social media posts for a small business?
You want to first look at how are you doing it manually? Every niche will have its own nuances, ways of communicating, etc. So you want to create a custom GPT with the best performing post of your industry, and to see what writing style, what tone of voice, etc. should be used for your specific industry and niche. And then once it's trained on that, then you can create an automation that does it, and you can even get a human in the loop. So it sends it to you via email or via Telegram or via text message, so that you can see it, and then you can press an approve button and it actually goes out and post. You can also create a loop so that it loops back. So when you press disapprove, it loops back around and it writes it again. So those are some ways that you could do that. I'd say mainly get the top 50 to 100 posts in your niche, and then put it into a document and train the AI on that so that it knows specifically what's working for your industry.
Got it. Now, I know a lot of entrepreneurs are using the deep research features, either for Perplexity to go more deeper on topics that to post about, to gain traction about, or I will call brand awareness, right? So something that you're going to attract customers to your brand. So how do you see that those features fit as well? How have you been using it a lot? How do you implement it into these automations to create at least brainstorm topics that you might want to write about?
Can you say that again? Can you say the question again?
Yeah, I was asking you about the use of deep search in either Perplexity, and how do you see that fit into this workflow, like for brainstorming topics, how you can utilize this to help you brainstorm ideas for topics to write about or present or share with your audience?
Yeah, actually, deep research is a new thing that I has come out with as well. I've tried it. It does take longer. It takes about a minute for it to return the response, but the response is definitely more detailed. There's, depending on the different models that you use, like some have the ability to access the web. I still think the leader in the field is no doubtedly OpenAI. They are definitely competing with Perplexity with the addition of the deep research tool. So that's thing number one. And I think that it shortens the amount of time for people to do things like research. Like when I was back in university, there was like weekends I spent in the library going through encyclopedias and published papers, etc., to look for those one quote that I can put into my papers and stuff. But now AI can search for all of that and give me the proper citations that I need to, and the proper quotes that I can insert into my like research papers, things like this. So I think that tools like deep research is really going to shorten the amount of time it takes to do research related tasks. It is also good to feed whatever OpenAI comes out with into Perplexity just to see if there's any hallucination and see if it's true or not. Just always double check your AI sources because sometimes it can hallucinate. That's my only caveat to that. Yeah. Yeah. And okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, yeah, to piggyback on the idea of building automations for social media post. I have a lot of raising interest in automating also some of the workflows for content creation, like blog post and even podcasts. I even create scripts and things like that. So what is your take on something like it for people that is doing a lot of creative work like podcasting or blogging?
It depends on what you're trying to do and what do you do. It's what I explained in terms of the process earlier on as well. What are you trying to automate, right? And are you fully automating? Map out that process and see how AI can step in. So for example, for podcasting, you probably had a researcher guest. So you can create an AI agent that does that research for you, feed it in their website, their LinkedIn, maybe and other social media posts, and then have the AI to do that research on you and then help you come back with a list of questions you can ask that person, right? That's one example of use case, but it's not trying to fit AI into the processes. It's looking at your existing processes and seeing where AI can fit in, right? That's an important distinction.
Awesome. Now, on terms of automation, Helena, because you alluded to the custom GPT for train them for brainstorming, which I think that would be the first step. But to build automations, you need to use tools like Zapier or Make. That's the best way to do it. And it seems to me that how is the learning curve as far as that goes, and what type of training is out there for anyone that was interested in building these automations?
Yeah, in terms of automations, there's several platforms like Zapier, Make. It's more for small to medium-sized businesses. There's also Power Automate and UiPath. That's for more like enterprise level businesses, and it's a much harder to get onboarded and much more expensive as well. But yeah, for any small sub 50 or even 100 employee businesses, Make and Zapier will work pretty well. Yeah. And it's completely no code. So it's pretty easy to set up an automation. Now, in terms of Make, what could get harder is like figuring out the flows, like setting up your for loops, setting up different operations in it. But again, we're not trying to make it as complex as possible. We're trying to see what is the business doing, what is the process, and then seeing if we need to use those functions to help them get there. Not like, let's make this as fancy as possible. Let's throw in everything that's possible under the sun. For most people, those really difficult things probably won't even be needed. And I do have to run in a couple minutes here, but do you have any other last minute questions for me?
No, I think that maybe the only question would be how people can reach out to you, find about what you do, and basically where people can reach to you.
Sure, absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn. It's just Helena Liu on LinkedIn or YouTube. And you can also check out my AI education and company at productcamps.com. And I also have an AI newsletter called tldr-ai.com. So that's a couple places that I'm active on.
Awesome. It was amazing, the conversation, and I hope we stay around and we have further conversation in the near future. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have the links but people is asking for the links to the resources, your resources. Can you just put it in the chat?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Hang on. Give me 1 second.
Alternative, you can also share in LinkedIn, and I can put it in the podcast episode as well.
Sure. That's the
awesome. Perfect.
I have. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Helena.
Yeah. And take care. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care. Thank you for joining for another episode of A Doctor's Journey podcast, navigating life and medicine with coaching and healthcare innovation. I'm your host, Miguel Villagra, and I hope you found this episode useful in your journey. Remember to connect with our community at adoctorsjourney.com. There are multiple resources that can be highly useful on your journey and support. Stay in touch with our community. Until next time.